What's going on? How's it going, guys? Welcome back for another episode of Shady Sports Fantasy Reports. I'm your host, Cedric, and we got Justin over here to my right and my left. I don't know which side you're seeing him on. Um,
Stage left. I don't know.
but we're coming at you strong like we do every Tuesday. Oh, it looks like Shawnee's here too. So we'll go ahead and bring Shawnee in.
Hey.
Shawnee,
What is happening?
what's good, my dude?
How we doing out there?
Good.
Doing
I'm doing
awesome.
amazing. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. I'm glad I
Heck
was able
yeah.
to hop on for an episode here. Things have been a little nutty, and more things are
Yeah.
happening now that I keep on seeing. We're getting closer to that kickoff point. I'm getting more excited by the week, and yeah, just excited to talk some football too.
There we go. There we go. Well, let's go ahead and get this intro out of the way, and then we'll get right into it, guys.
Whoop.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll have a new intro coming. I was working on it and I completely spaced, but I got it mostly done. So next episode we'll have a new intro. I think it'll be a little better. I'm getting a little better with the design. But yeah, guys, welcome back for another episode of Shady Sports Fantasy Reports. I think it's like episode 8 of season 3. We're bringing you guys some rankings to start off, some really, really early rankings. And then, like I said, the season is going to creep up and roll into it really quick. And, I think Monday kicks off training camp. So, yeah, guys, I figure, we could just kind of touch on some things around fantasy football tonight and just kind of keep the conversation going. Hope you guys, you cool with that, or any
Yeah.
Absolutely.
thoughts?
Yeah. Hopefully, we can bring some people in here to drop in some comments in the chat to contribute to the topics.
Yep.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the thing we're seeing right now, guys, is a lot of what we're going to be seeing over the next couple weeks, and that's who guys are immediately putting on the pup list.
Mm-hmm.
The physically unable to perform guys. So we're
We
going
were
to get a
just talking
better
about
idea,
that. Yeah.
who's going to be there, who's going to start to show up, who's not happy with their contract, and giving us some insight to whose injuries are actually going to be detrimental to the season. Some of those guys, if you're in dynasty leagues who you drafted as a rookie, who are unable to perform, guys like Theo Bellinger, that it'll make a pretty easy decision to let you leave a guy on a taxi squad and open up some bench room.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's one good thing about these next couple of weeks. And then another thing is that if you have one of these high paid guys who doesn't have a negotiated or reconstructed contract at this point, you start to worry about whether or not they're going to show up. Those things tend to usually work themselves out, and you start to bite your nails a little closer to the season. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think right now there's anybody too concerned. I think Jordan Love's about to sign an extension. I think the only person right now that we're looking at, and he says he's going to still show up at camp anyway, which is a pretty stand-up move on his point. Is Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah. I did see that he ended up practicing today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So even though a trade was requested from him and he's still not happy, maybe a negotiating tactic on his end to try and squeeze a couple more mil out, or maybe to see if somebody will put something out there big enough for the 49ers to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe we actually will. But I don't know. San Francisco seems pretty set in their ways and pretty set in the fact that they want him as a part of their roster, at least this season. Maybe not going forward, but at least for this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, speaking
Absolutely.
of Brandon Ayuk, I'm reading right here. Who was it? Ricky Purcell. He injured his hamstring. So do you think that'll have something to play into it as well too? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I mean, anything that's going to open up the target share, anything that's going to get you more playing time, obviously is going to be, a pretty big thing. But
mhm.
also, in those situations, now that you have that come up as an issue, depending on long term, this is also another time where you start to see guys who are out there in free agency that are getting signed to 1 year deals, out of nowhere. The guys who have the cap, the guys that have the room on their roster, and they need the talent.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. Because who knows? You see what Kansas City's going to do. We have all this trouble now with Xavier Worthy. This is the fastest guy ever in combine history. He comes in, you draft him as the guy you want to groom to come up. Now,
Mm-hmm.
who's to say whether or not he would have worked out regardless? But now, at this point, with all the trouble he's had in the offseason, who knows how many games he's going to be suspended? Um, you know, that opens up room for them to either get another wide receiver, or that gives us, more target share for guys like, well, I heard Kadarius Toney is actually taking reps out of the backfield right now, which is pretty crazy. But it just changes things up, and it gives you something else to keep your eye on, for sure.
Yeah, I
Well, I
saw that
mean,
Pearsall ended up on the pup today too.
yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
I actually saw something today too, where the Chargers, their console, the way that they're rolling out their offense right now, Quentin Johnston isn't even a part of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
it's
man.
Palmer, DJ Moore, and Lad McConkey. That's
Mhm.
their three they're rolling with right now.
Wow.
So, as of right now, Quentin Johnston, he was a good rookie to pick up. Lots of people, he's one of those guys right now that you can actually, you know, get at a good ADP and, stash just in case. But if things are rolling out, it's looking a little rough. Like he's not even taking the reps right now. So
Wow.
he's either going to have to step up big time and show them that he's going to have sure hands this season and that he's going to be there. Because things are kind of, I don't know whether or not they're being dramatic or if they're, making things drastic at this point to light a fire under certain players' ass. But there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
controversy coming out of Denver right now, too. They're
Uh-oh.
saying that Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams are the two guys that are fighting for the last roster spot in the
yeah,
backfield.
Oh
that's what
They're
I've been
man.
saying that,
hearing.
yeah, they're
Oh
saying that
man.
Jaleel McLaughlin is their guy,
Hmm.
and then that rookie that they drafted is the guy behind him.
Well,
And
why
if
spend
they,
that money if you don't have to? So that does change a lot
Yeah,
of things. I
yeah.
mean,
yeah,
especially at running back position, you guys see it too with the rankings, how we've been seeing, the newer guys coming in and taking over, the top 10 spots, and all these rankings we've been putting out with the
Mm-hmm.
running backs. And yeah, it's the same thing in Denver. Like, yeah, we'd love to see Javonte, or from what I've been hearing, on the fan and other places, like they'd love to see, Javonte hit his rookie form, look like he did his rookie season. And Samaje, I mean, he's Mr. Dependable for sure. But at the
has been.
same time, they just gave, you know, uh, what's his name, the undrafted running back, they just gave him, half a million
Estimate,
dollars.
I
Not
believe.
Estimate, the other one.
Oh,
No, yeah, the
Watson?
other one.
Yeah, Watson. I think. Yeah, Watson.
Yeah,
They just signed Watson to like $250,000. And then they got estimated fifth round pick. And they're looking at I don't know. It's just
It's the Wild
and we
West over there in the
we see
Denver
it across the
backfield.
board though. Yeah, it's definitely the Wild West in Denver. They don't know which direction they're going in. They don't know
yeah.
what type of team they're going to be in. But at the same time, they know they have younger players. So yeah, it's crazy when you look at it. You got like great players like Javonte and Samaje, but I mean, were they really like fantasy relevant though? At the same time, too, though.
If
That
when
shows
they
like
were, well, when Javante was a three down back,
when he was,
but
yeah.
then yeah,
Yeah.
when you start the committee stuff, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely cuts into it. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you're desperate for a flex, and that's where he was kind of filling in. I mean, but dude, it just the size of that man and his sheer athletic ability, it would really, really surprise me if he didn't end up with a roster spot.
I
I'm
was gonna
just,
say he'll be somewhere, but at the same time, and then does that make you look at other players too, like younger? Because like I feel like estimate, if they do get rid of Samaje and they do get rid of Javante, then it's Jalil's show, and then you got estimate coming in there on goal line touches. Do you start looking at those rookie players, for those last couple spots on your team?
obviously, yeah. I mean, there's I mean, I think that they're safer and better situations to go with how vast the running back field is right now. So I think that, the guy who's coming up third in Denver is probably irrelevant when it comes to fantasy, unless you're talking a really, really deep league. But always keep, there's always a reason to keep your eye on everybody. You know what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
look at what we got going on right now. We know that Houston's offense is going to be a powerhouse. Joe Mixon is having a little bit of, issues going on with whatever injury or illness. I don't know what it is, but he was held to practice or he wasn't. And now out of nowhere, the Texans go and sign Cam Akers. So now we
Yeah.
got, everybody's getting a little bit deeper at this point, and it's like, that's why I'm saying you wonder, are they doing it to get them reps? Do they need a practice squad guy? Are they really just getting in there to light a fire under their number one's ass to make sure that they hold their spot? Or is this guy going to have some type of relevance and outwork these guys and, really become something that you need to keep your eye on?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Oh
It's
yeah.
cool because, this time of year, you start to think about like, all right, drafts coming up, really, really, really want to know what's going on. But this is the time of year where you kind of just got to be patient and see what everybody and just keep up with the information because things are going to be coming out of camps daily and they're going to change daily. Oh, quarterback Justin Love is really high on, Wicks right now. And then, coming out, season starts, Wicks is in guy who's getting the third biggest target share, and it's still Reed and Watson. You know what I mean? Even though, Reed is hurt. So, it's always good to pay attention to the information, but making rash decisions on drafting and all that stuff, you want to wait until you see. And that's another thing too, is that it all depends on when your drafts are scheduled. I want you guys to register in here and get in and talk to us, whether or not you guys have teams that are overzealous, like a lot of us are, and draft before preseason,
Mm.
or are you guys like to be patient? You like to see where things shake out, and you draft after, you know, one preseason game, all preseason games, just to kind of see who's there and injured. And I'm interested to see, around the world here, around the fantasy world, where you guys like to draft at, because it makes a difference in a lot of things too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. Speaking of that, actually, where people draft, because I think, yeah, I'm gonna ramp up our other league, and get ready. And I think we usually look to draft, what was the fourth week in the preseason, now the
Yeah,
bye week, in between the third game of the preseason and the first game. And I feel like a lot of leagues that's kind of where they're looking to draft, because then you kind of know who's hurt, the freshes of the teams going into the season, like,
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you
yeah.
had some keeper leagues, it depends. And, a lot of dynasty leagues, you're only drafting rookies. So, a lot
Hmm.
of those drafts are done and out of the way. But yeah, the normal PPR, half PPR, yeah, normal guys like that. And then, as well, I'm on draft status. Um, One thing that I kind of wanted to bring up um, at this point was strategy as far as it goes draft wise when it comes to tight end drafting.
Mm.
Now, you guys, as well as a lot of everybody else in here that would listen, who knows fantasy football, knows that you got about 5 tight ends total that are going to make an actual difference in your roster week to week. But there are another handful to a couple more than that out there that, you know, can at least make a difference and get in there and get you that, 5 to 10 that you might want every week. So I don't know what you guys like to do. Is this a season where you're going to try, to go with the no running back, strategy and
Mm.
kind of pick up, what wide receiver or what running backs you can, because there's so many committees kind of later on down the line, and because there's such depth in the running back pool and the wide receivers that are going to score are kind of like, you want to stay in that top 20 universe, or are you a
Hmm.
guy who's going to go, running back, wide receiver, then quarterback, tight end, and then get running back, wide receiver, um, after that. And you know what? That's kind of the draft status that I've been mocking under, that I've seen the most success at. Now, that's just me. That's where that's where I've been getting the best bang for my buck, and I've
Mm-hmm.
been still getting a decent tight end, is
Mm-hmm.
going, running back first round, and then well, depending on what wide receivers, it's wide receiver, then running back, and then I like to go, because you always see them go, and then
Mm-hmm.
quarterback, tight end, and then get back to wide receiver, running back after that. Now, I've had the most success with getting the best players for their bang at that point, but I don't know what you guys have found works better for you, something that you like better. I mean, guys, do you have, what do you like to do? Have you been mocking anything, or is there any strategy that you've used in the past that you like to stick with?
Yeah, that's a good question, but hold that thought, because we do have our sponsors, so now's a
All
good
right.
time, while we're talking about our strategies, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it may be, now's a good time to throw this out, because we do have Cash App, guys. If you don't use Cash App, I'll have our code up. You can go ahead and use it and get, a couple bucks for using it. And then we have Manscaped. I'm sure Shawnee could speak on it. I don't know if you use it too, Justin, but their products are amazing. So let's go ahead and throw that on real quick, and we'll come back and we'll talk about those strategies.
How are you? Bring them things, bring them things. I call the plug, bring them things. I bring them things.
That's money. That's cash out.
Forever you and me. Right by my side, where you ought to be. 'Cause if I ever were to lose you, I just don't know what I'd do. Let me hear you now.
Yeah. Like the commercial said, you gotta take care of those boys. So guys, use our code Shady Sports Network. You get Shady Sports, you get 20% off at Manscaped. So yeah, back to it. Shawnee, we were talking about draft strategy. I don't know, Justin, do you have you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I'm currently in a draft right now, and I took the strategy of it's a guillotine league, so it's a different format. If you're not aware, that means after each week, a team gets knocked off. That's the lowest point scoring team. So my draft strategy, I took Kelsey in the first round as my tight end to get that positional advantage right away, get that safe stud tight end out of the way. And on the way back, I doubled up and I took Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback
The
after
killer
him.
combo.
Yep. Well, my draft strategy typically with tight ends, I either punt them or I take them right away. I get that stud tight end right away. I either punt them to the end of my draft or I'm taking them right away in the first round and getting it out of the way
You
and
kind of
getting
have
that
to do that.
surefire roster locked, set it and forget it. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Otherwise,
Mhm.
yeah, if I go the punting route, I'll wait until after I get my flex picked, or maybe even before that, and then I'll take the tight end, which I've usually been getting like a Goddard or a Hunter Henry or like a Cole Kmet around that time. So
Then
it's
I mean,
not exactly terrible, but I'm still got somebody who's getting like about 5-10-ish points.
yeah, exactly. That's what you're gonna get. And that's just the fact of the matter right now. Those top 3 to 5 guys are gonna be off the board within the first second, and by the third round, non-existent. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mhm.
absolutely it. And that's why it's the mocks are a lot different, because when you got guys like us who actually know what they're doing, as opposed to some guys
Mm-hmm.
that might not know what they're doing, those, like I said, I go with tight end in the third round. By that time, on a normal draft where people know what they're doing, you can pretty much guarantee that Kelsey's not going to be in there, that Laporta's not going to be in there, that Andrews is going to be gone, um, You might still see Kittle, Hawkinson. You might still be able to get your hands on guys like that, but that's going to be, where you're going to start to settle and bottom out is between, you know, that 4-5 up to 15. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and once you get to the latter end of that 15, I mean, you may be even better off waiting until the season starts and seeing who's the
Mm-hmm.
hot guy on the waiver wire, who the breakout tight end is going to be. Because there's
Mm.
always one. There's always someone that comes in and surprises you. Oh, and I can't forget about Kincaid. Oh, I keep forgetting
Mm.
about him. He's definitely a valuable resource, and definitely an early take. But yeah, Jem, where do you usually draft, around early, or are you a
For
wait?
tight end, I mean, I usually, I guess, well, I never really thought about tight end. Honestly, it's something more than getting, 7, 8 points. So I didn't, I kind of got in where I fit in with my tight end. I felt like I would usually try to fill up my wide receivers first, my wide
Mm-hmm.
receivers and running backs, and I get those, and then I'll go in and get a tight end. But I mean, looking at, I mean, honestly, I think this year, I'd probably even take a flyer on Brock Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
kind of seeing like where something, because I feel like he's not going to be someone drafted high, and he'll still be sitting there around, the fourth or fifth round. But that's probably it. If I don't get him, then it's kind of just probably just wait till the end of the draft and just grab
Mm-hmm.
someone because it's like the same regardless. I think once you get past like you guys are saying, like the first, the top four, maybe top five with Kincaid, it's kind of a crapshoot. The rest of them you're just kind of waiting to see what happens. They're pulling them off the waiver wires, waiting for somebody to drop them because they got angry, because they weren't hitting the first few weeks. So it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, with tight end, I think usually once, because yeah, Kelsey, Laporta, they're probably going to go with the run of running backs and receivers in the first couple rounds. And then I think it just kind of I look and see what's happening after that. If I can snatch up one of those other premium guys, talking about Andrews, talking about Kincaid, um, and then Kittle. I mean, not so much Kittle, honestly, but Kittle's right there too. I guess if you can get him, you kind of get him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
oh
I
yeah,
don't I don't place such a huge emphasis in the tight ends. I'd say that they're not like the biggest, the top or the highest on my priority list.
yeah. But and then that's the other thing though that I always go back to is that with the research that I've done, and when I look through, and at the end of every season, the team that is usually in the championship, if not in the top three, always has the top three,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they're the guys who are pulling out the wins with the high numbers, because they're
Yep.
consistently scoring the highest every week, because they're getting 20 plus out of every roster spot because they got that lucky draft spot. So that's why it's always such a difference maker to get that guy and to have him, and to know that you're good there. And
Hmm.
that's why it's kind of get anxious to see where everybody thinks about it, because I mean, a lot of people are about it, and then you got some people that treat a tight end like a kicker or a defense.
Mm-hmm.
You could go week to week if you wanted to, or
That's
you
me.
know stick, or you those guys that go in there and immediately grab the best defense and the best kicker in the 12th and 13th round, and then fill your
Mm-hmm.
bench in with other running backs and wide receivers after them. You
Hmm.
know, but
What I've noticed in the drafts I've been doing is 100% of the time, once the first tight end of those top go, it starts a run. Then you see the
yeah,
boom, boom, boom. And
yep.
then at that point for your team, you have to be like, all right, I missed the top. I just either have to, settle for a Kincaid or a Bowers or one of those lower tier ones, or I just punt it completely. But like as soon as that first tight end goes in whatever round, it's almost like a standoff because the draft goes and it goes and it goes and you're just waiting. Okay, who's gonna take the first tight end? No matter where it's been at, as soon as the first one goes, then it's bang, 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 and then you either are part of that run or you're at the back end of
Yeah,
it, looking at your draft like, oh crap, now what do I gotta do?
Yeah.
I feel like quarterback is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
feel like as soon as you see Allen or Mahomes or Hurts or one of the as soon as one of those guys goes, then everybody is on edge
Mm-hmm.
looking at who's getting drafted next. Because if the next one's a quarterback and then the next one, then you're like, oh well, now I'm screwed.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
yeah. Usually, most of the time, you are with those two positions. I mean, it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge drop off. You're talking about going from getting guys that are getting 18 to 22 points consistently,
Yeah.
to guys that are maybe getting 8
Yeah.
to 18 points. It's a big difference in drop off once you kind of get past those first four guys on both the quarterback and the tight end, which is why I guess I can kind of see the run on it. But it is funny to see like when
Run
that first
play.
person takes it, like
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I feel like the only real draft I've done so far was our dynasty draft, and it was interesting to see how that went down because
Yeah.
like you ended up, it was a rookie draft, granted, so it was a whole different landscape, but still
Mm-hmm.
like the positions were there. The first couple positions were running backs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and then
Well,
you ended
yeah,
up.
they were running backs. Top two were running back, and then three quarterbacks, and
Hmm.
then it went Bowers, and then it went another quarterback, and then it went linebacker.
Yeah, and I feel like that. Granted, that's rookies, but you kind of see it like that. Like once there's a run on a position besides running back or wide receiver, then you start seeing people are like, oh crap, let me get the top guy, let me get Kelsey,
Mm-hmm.
or oh
Yeah.
shoot, let me get Laporta. These are the guys I know.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me get, Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts because these are the
Yep.
guys are gonna do exactly what they're gonna do. And then everyone else outside of that, like you really don't know, even so, even to the point to where I don't know in my position, from my point of view, I was like, oh, Josh Allen, like I don't know about Josh Allen. He wasn't all there last year, but he's still like graded as like one of the top quarterbacks
Mm-hmm.
across the board,
Yeah.
If he's
Um
there and you're at that point, you're taking him.
you got to take him. You got to
Yeah.
take him, right? And I think that's what it falls down. I think that's what it comes down to is like personally, like I don't necessarily follow the run on those positions, but at the same time it's like if someone lands right there and I can't be like, oh well, let me go get my third receiver,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of
Exactly.
picking up Laporta.
Yeah.
Um, it's
Well,
just
in
kind.
that situation, Laporta, that's not a bad pick. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And that's the thing about the timing of them is that once that first one's taken, then you kind of got to watch what the trend of the draft does.
Mm-hmm.
If people ignore the fact that they just went quarterback or tight end and they continue to fill their running back and wide receiver spots, and you're not watching the next best QB go or the next best tight end go, then it makes you feel a little safer. But after somebody picks that QB or tight end, and then the next pick is tight end, then the next pick is QB, then the next pick, and then you start to be like, oh, great, I don't have another pick for 6 more rounds. So there goes my
Mm-hmm.
QB or there goes my tight end for the season just because of the tempo of the draft.
Hmm.
I've been
So,
in part of some. This might be crazy for you guys, but I've been doing a bunch of mocks and doing my drafts regularly. And there's been a couple of drafts I've been a part of, and there's been some wild strategies. Like there's been some like straight throat cutters in the draft room where like that they'll go and get those top quarterbacks, and then that next round they'll go and get the next best available quarterback, and then their quarterback room is like Josh Allen and Tua or Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and you're just like, damn.
yeah,
Well, even if he has an injury, he's set because he's got two stellar, and which is a bullet because you're leaving a lot of player value out there. But I've been seeing it happen where, like, even for the tight ends too, like if someone has taken Kelsey right away, just follow up in the next round and taking like Andrews and a Porta, and it's just like, well, that guy is just loaded at that position for the rest of the
Hmm.
season.
he's got good trade bait too.
Exactly, and that's another element of your draft strategy too for the rest of the season because your season isn't one just at the draft; it's all the way through the entire year. So if you have that capital of like having two stellar QBs, or for this case the tight ends, you can be like, hey, I'll throw you a Laporta for a wide receiver one and a running back,
Yep.
and it's kind of hard for them to argue because it's like I need a tight end, and you know I don't want to be going into this week with a Kate Otten or like a lower tier bottom of the barrel tight end.
Nope. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why I also feel like it's really important to take, the best handcuffs at the
Mm-hmm.
positions as well. For whether it be wide receiver or running back. You know, everybody always worries about spending capital on backups and
Mm-hmm.
or the RB2 or the wide receiver two and even the third. By the time injuries shake out, you never know who's going to be number one at that spot or who's going to have the target share. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
strategy is definitely important when it comes to those positions as well, grabbing the next best so you have, good trade opportunity or you're in a good position yourself in case injuries do happen.
And I think just
Mhm.
my personal opinion is that the tight ends, as far as the season go, are really good like trade bait value to have if you got a couple solid ones versus having like a couple good wide receivers or running back, just because you only play one tight end each week. And if you
Right.
kind of got like a stash of like a couple that are beyond good, you can use that to really like move your lineup around and try to improve it from week to week.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at this point, guys, I just I know that we had talked about previously um, wanting to talk about, and while we're in draft strategy and while we're talking about it, um, you know, a lot of guys were talking about their ADP and where they're going in the
Mm,
draft, and if it is worth it to you to take that person at that particular time or if these are going to be the guys that you pass on.
mm.
So do you guys want to get into who you're not drafting at high up like that, or what did you want to get into as far as that goes?
Here, let me see if I can probably pull up some players.
Yeah, I know
We can
who
kind of.
from when we talked about before who I'm still not drafting is what's his name? It's no, not anymore. Now with the news, now that I know the news, I was gonna say Ayuk again, but now with the news, it's kind of like he's someone I'm kind of not reached. But like if I'm eyeballing him in the round if he's coming to me, sort of a thing.
Yeah,
Whereas like if he's and I've just like players like DJ Moore or like Kyron Williams, where people are like kind of like thinking that the rookie is gonna take over their spots. I've been kind of just sticking with the boat and going with them. I really everyone who I've like targeted, I haven't reached for. They've kind of just fallen to me in drafts, but like the people I've stayed away from have been like it's like four or five of them in a round on my pick, and then the one guy I want. So it's
yeah,
like it makes the pick easier for me because it's like all right, the four people everyone else is avoiding them, so I'm continuing to avoid them and just making my decision easier with who I want to go after in a round.
absolutely, absolutely. A lot, when I roll through in the mocks that I've been doing and the drafts that I've been doing so far, um, I see a lot of people stalling out on Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Even though he's been so good, but it's just like, you worry about, and that's another reason, like, I stall out on guys like Bowers, and I worry about, I don't know if any of you guys watch that Receivers on Netflix, but
I
oh
have
my
not.
God, did that open up a giant door to show you Devontae Adams' true feelings on the quarterback situation
Yeah.
that they have in Las Vegas, dude. I mean, how pissed he was, and just the fact that he was getting hurt so much and saying, I've never been hit this much in my entire life. And, now he got these new guys like Bowers, and, you got guys who actually had a really good season last season, like Jacoby Myers. And it's like, now we still don't know. The quarterback situation might not have got any better with Minshew and everything. So
hmm
that might be another reason to worry about drafting Bowers, especially high up. Um, and you see people avoiding like Ridley and yeah, like you said, DJ Moore. Also, who else have I seen?
Drake
And then
London.
well, then you
That's
get
just you.
yeah. Who do you
Kyle
say?
Pitts.
I've been seeing so many people take London in the second round or late
Really?
first round.
London. Yeah, London's
It's
another one.
incredible, and I just think it's set in my head like, oh no, he's yelling at those guys like, what are you doing?
Don't do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's another one. That's definitely another good one. Yeah, and I just, you know, there's lots of guys that I have also had on my rosters over previous years that I say I'll never draft again because they've been so up and down for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of those guys who I hate the fact that he had such a good season last season was CeeDee Lamb, because every
Mm-hmm.
season prior that I've had him on my rosters, he's been nothing but an up and down guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like a hit or miss thing. He's never been like average or averaging high points. And then all of a sudden last year, he's the number one guy up there with Tyreek and Amon Ra.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, it's just kind of anxious to see what shakes out with who and the injuries, and then you really know kind of who to avoid. But as I'm seeing it right now, you know, there's Kyron, injury wise, is one that I've seen a lot of people, and especially because he is going so high, he's another one I've seen people stall out on, or a guy that I would stall out on myself, depending on who's around him.
Yeah. That's
Williams.
one draft strategy I use is I keep screenshots and remember those players that killed me and made me lose games last year. And then I keep their names and then I look at them in the draft, be like, oh yeah, Mike Evans. I remember getting scored on by 20 some odd points from him in the playoffs, and it'd be nice to have him on my team so I don't get that treatment again. Or like
Yeah,
other players were like a Najee Harris or something like I had, and I needed him to show up in the playoffs or something, and they just basically goosed me, and I'm like, all right, I'll let you pass this year. I've
yeah,
felt
yeah.
the hurt before.
It was definitely Warren's season last season. Jalen Warren came in and kind of showed that he was the better of the
Hmm.
two. And when that broke out, Najee kind of. But now you really got to worry about the depth of the Steeler backfield because they
Hmm.
added Cordero Patterson now. So now you got to look at Najee, Warren, and Cordero Patterson.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, now we really got to stall out on these guys because they're going to have three guys possibly, and then that's another thing, like I said. But luckily, these guys are falling at lower ADPs, like
Hmm.
Eckler, and pretty much all the guys that are in a real, two-way, a committee. They're lower in the ADP, especially on ESPN that I've seen. Um,
Hmm.
you know, guys like Eckler and who else? Who's he sharing the backfield with in Washington? Oh yeah,
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson
Yeah.
Jr. And who else is it like
I've
a
seen
definite?
Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears dropping a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Guys like that, they're going way lower in the draft just because it's that community situation. They're being
Mhm.
projected to score, you know, between 170 and 190 for the whole season when you're used to
Mhm.
like Austin Eckler being like a 300 point a season guy for the Chargers.
Yeah.
It's just weird to see. But yeah, as you get down there, they get more and more worth it to fill bench spots. But higher up, it's like I don't know. You look at guys who back up the number ones, guys like Jalen Waddle, who are your guy behind Tariq, who just signed a big contract.
Hmm.
Do you go for him, or do you kind of, you know, do you try and find the next better wide receiver one, or T Higgins, is Jamar Chase gonna have a monster season over him? Guys like that, or do you avoid or do you pick them
Yeah.
up just because
Mm.
they're the guy? Or with Evans, you always got Godwin.
Hmm.
I'm still those are still guys for me because of their quarterback and how good their teams are. Guys that I'm still gonna take if they're there. Um, but running back, you really kind of don't have to worry about that situation when it comes to getting two running backs high up on the list because the list is so deep. Um, you know, I think if they're up there, they're kind of going to be worth it.
Hmm.
Sometimes, they're either going to have a better season because they got a new team, or they might not have as good a season on the team. That's one thing about Kyron Williams, um, that I was looking at, is he had such an amazing season last season, is that I just don't know if he can repeat that, if they're going to have the same kind of script, now with
Hmm.
everything new going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
For
that's
sure.
our league there, huh?
Oh
I was
yeah.
gonna say I'll get some
I was trying to pull up some players so we could at least see them.
Let's see what Sed's drafted. Let's see his team.
Yeah.
He's got
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton locked in.
Cortland Sutton. I got all Broncos. I think I might go to all Broncos team this year.
Really?
And
Bold strategy. Well, hey,
see
look
how
at
it
it this way.
goes.
I've
That's a
kind of
bold
adapted
strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays out
Yeah.
for him.
I've kind of done that in like my drafts too. It's weird where like I've gotten like a Tyreek Hill early or like a like who else? Like I'll go like one of the star players on a team early, and then later on in the draft, like I'll still take a Waddle or like take
Yeah.
an Evans, and then I'll take a Godwin. It's like okay, so then I have 1 week I'm worried about the loss, but then the rest of the season after that bye week's passed, I got X amount of weeks where like I have a good player here, and I can put the other one in the flex.
Yeah, exactly. And, like I said, if you handcuff that bench right, or if you're getting
Mm-hmm.
some of those guys going at that lower ADP who start to break out and have a better, so you never know who's gonna, you know, and that's the funnest part about this and why we do it, man, is because you never know who's gonna have that breakout season, who's gonna, just fall into place where they're at on their new team, and then all of a sudden this guy that you drafted in like the 13th round is going to be a guy you're starting every week in your flex because he's just going off.
Yep.
So that's another good reason too. But yeah,
Which
exactly what
would
you
you rather see break out? Would you rather see the guy that you drafted early that you expect to have a great season breakout, or the guy that you drafted, in the later rounds that you
well,
didn't
I
really
just
care for?
I just think the
Or
guy who you draft early is going to have a decent enough season to be relevant anyway. So I think I'd probably rather see that Austin Eckler that I got way late, that was at the way bottom of that list, who they had projected at 173 points on the season, go off and have another 270-point season. You know,
Yeah, I'd be
I would.
much happier if like I got the Kyron Williams earlier, but then my Jaleel Glockman I got way later in the draft, and my flex spot is outperforming my run back two throughout the
Yeah,
season. That's what I'd be happier about because I
for
know what
sure.
we're gonna get with like Kyron, but if like Jaleel or I don't know
it's like a
any one of those
bonus.
later backs, they're pulling up that dead weight in my lineup. That helps a lot. 'Cause especially if you have kickers in a defense, and if you're getting a couple goose eggs there, it helps when those like flex spot players kind of pull up the deficit you got from those other two positions.
Dang, I just saw this. So Joe Mixon wasn't at practice yesterday, but Cam Akers was. Do
Yeah.
you do you feel like that's going to be something to keep an eye on as far as like speaking of those flex spots, those
Well, it
later picks?
isn't. Is Singletary still a Texan?
No, he's with the
No,
starting running back for the New York Giants.
yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He went to back. Okay. All right. So would that put Cam Akers at 2? What is their is that their depth chart then? Is it
It's
Joe
Mixon,
Mixon, then
Damian Pierce, then Cam
Pierce?
Akers,
That's who I'm thinking about.
and
Damian
then
Pierce.
Daria Gumbalale
Yeah,
at
so
smash.
okay, yeah, no man, you know what, Cam Akers, he didn't deserve to be played the way that he was under Sean McVay. Also, not an extremely crazy, when you guys got like guys like Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua, your running game tends to, not be utilized as much. And Cam Akers was underutilized. He was benched unfairly, and you know, uh I think that under a new coaching staff and in a new scheme, I think the Cam Akers could definitely thrive and survive. But Mixon, they're just preserving because they know that he's going to be their ground and pound number one guy. They went out and got him for a reason.
Mm.
It's the same reason Green Bay got Josh Jacobs. It's the same reason that Philly went and got Saquon. It's just all these guys are going to be the number one at their position, and they're going to get the reps. And Damian Pierce, I mean, this man's had great seasons as a backup or on starting weeks where he got it. So I think it's something to keep your eye on. Of course, like I said, always keep your eye out. But I don't think that you're going to be looking at Cam Akers having much fantasy relevance if you got guys who are starting like Joe Mixon and peers behind them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Hey guys, let's take a break. Really quick. I'm gonna do this Shady Sports promo while we got people on watching, guys. Tune in Shady Sports. We got more than just us talking some great fantasy football news. There's other stuff as well. So we'll be right back. Yes, guys, thank you for watching us. If you're just tuning in, this is Shady Sports Fantasy Reports, episode 8. We're just really talking draft strategy here. You got myself, Seany, and Justin, just kind of, chopping it up. So, guys, let us know what your teams are. Drop some questions in the comments if you want. Let us know who you're planning to draft, who you're higher up on, who you're not so high up on, who you're definitely staying away from. We'd love to hear from you. But yeah. Back to it though, before we took the break, I think we were talking about the Texans running back room. Another one I wanted to touch on. What do you guys feel about the Chargers running back room? Because that's a completely reconfigured running back room from the past, I don't even know, 5 years. There's nobody on there that was there. It's completely different. Do you see anybody from that running back room popping? They got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kamani Vidal, Isaiah Spiller, Elijah Dotson, and Jarrett Patterson. So
you're basically looking at the healthy version of what Baltimore's running back room was for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But, healthy being the key word there. If J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards can stay healthy, that's a dynamic duo right there. And you know what, man? The reason that the Chargers running backs were always so damn fantasy relevant is not only were they talented, but it's a run-heavy game script. That's how they play football.
Mm-hmm.
So if they find one of these guys in a good enough position to be a three down back, or if they want to run the committee and they find that, they want to have one of them as their pass catcher, and then, I think it could work out great for them. I don't think that there's going to be a gray area. It's either going to be good or it's going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get injured. They're not going to figure it out. And they're going to, not have very good fantasy relevance. You're going to struggle to throw them in the flex. Or they're going to be surefire starters every week because that's how the game script is. They have it figured out and they know who their number one is. And even that number 2 guy can get you flex points.
Very
Yeah,
true.
I'd add to it that my dream is I'm okay passing on an Edwards and a Dobbins and waiting for the later rounds. No, my reasoning behind it is I'm okay passing up where their value is at ADP and stashing the Vidal guy for my later rounds and getting him for basically nothing in drafts because the other 2 guys have proven to me in seasons that they've gotten hurt and they've been injured. So I'd rather take the shot on the new guy later on for the draft value that I'm drafting him at than hoping and investing in one of the other 2 guys as my running back 2 and getting burnt by another one of their injuries and missing out on that production for. That's how I would do the Chargers backfield.
Yeah. Are you looking at?
I kind of look at it as one I stay away from.
Yeah,
There's plenty other backfields that have guys that I know I want to put my faith in. There's a couple of backfields that I'm still very I'm wondering what's going to happen with Zamir White over in Vegas. And with who they got going on over there now. Is it going to be him or is it going to be who else did they pick up? They pick up Cook.
Have Alexander Madison.
Okay,
and
Madison.
They have a rookie they drafted. I forgot his name.
Okay.
Yo, Madison was solid for me 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, he was always the backup for Cook in Minnesota, and he always had some relevance. He had sure hands. He was a good red zone, and I have him still on my a stash on my dynasty roster. But I don't know. Zamir White seems like that guy, and I think you can get him for a good draft pick. Yeah, a good pick right now, a little further down. And I think that if they stick with him as the number one starter, that he will have good fantasy relevance. But here's one that I worry about only because of his past, not because of his skill at where he's going. Um, Dude, Buffalo, Cook. All right, Cookie had a monster season last season when they used him the way that he deserves to be used. This is kind of like my Bijan Robinson argument is like when you have, the best running back or one of the best running backs in the league, um, and you're just not utilizing them at all, or you're benching them because they fumble once and not bringing them back in until the fourth quarter, and you're not winning games. It's like, what are you doing? Now of course Atlanta has said they're going to change things up. Now they're under new coach, and Bijan is going to be like overutilized. Like they're going to pretty much use that boy like a workhorse. That's what you want to hear, and that's what you want to see when you're talking about your fantasy relevance. Now Cook, it's like, you got Josh Allen as your quarterback. So unless the play call just calls for you, that man has a monster arm and he's a scrambler. And that's why fantasy relevance for him has been like, they have had to go to him to the point where it was just like four rushing touchdowns from him for him to have like the first 40-point game I've seen out of him. And, for him to have any like week to week starting relevancy. Now, do you think that Buffalo has seen that now and they stick with that? Or do you think that, there's still some worry there where, there's going to be games where he just, doesn't do much just because the game script doesn't call for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Buffalo is doing all they can do to prove that Josh Allen is a Hall of Famer. Um, they're justifying that pick, so it does feel like at times their running game has gotten lost. But also at the same time too, Josh Allen's getting a little bit older. They do have to lean on more things, and seeing that they did, I feel like we are going to see a lot because I don't know. I personally feel like Buffalo's championship window is closed. But that's just my opinion. But I do think we will see a bit more out of their running game as they do try to find more balance, especially not having, a solid number one receiver this year either.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, true that. True that. Yeah, that does make a big difference. Having Stephon Diggs go over to Houston, might give them an opportunity to say, hey, and that's why, Cook coming off the season that he had, improving himself. I mean, he's only showed the team that he, not only can he run that ball like a maniac and he can get yards after hit, but he can catch the ball and run with it too. I mean, his receiving and went up big time too. And I mean, that does nothing but boost our relevance for him fantasy wise as well. But you just see him going so much higher now in drafts. And it just worries me because, you know, if things do fall into place and he ends up being that guy who kind of, only gets it every now and then, or in the red zone, it's going to be Allen, or, they're going to end up passing to Kincaid, is that he just, has an average season again as opposed to a great one. I just think that for his talent, he's being underutilized. That's all. And, is a guy like that worth taking in the second round? Because if there's guys around him that are going to be playing more and they're going to have more snaps, they're going to get the ball more, you're going to want to take that guy who's going to have that edge points wise over the guy who you're unsure of.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of guys that look like that too. Because I mean, I feel like you're gonna start, you'll see like the Derrick Henrys around the second round too. If you have Derrick Henry there and James Cook, who are you going with? You
Oh,
know,
King Henry every day.
all day, every day, right?
All day, yeah.
There's a lot of players I'd say like, but at the same time, James Cook is a number one running back. I feel like there's still like second, number two running backs over him too, like A Chain or Montgomery or Rashad White,
Yeah.
that you'd probably look at before James Cook just because of the team, just because of the situation he's in, like
Yeah,
Josh Allen is. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you put Cook on the Broncos, they smash draft him in the second round.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You
All
know
day.
they're using them. They don't have a
Yeah,
quarterback that's
exactly. You
eating
don't have
up
to
those
worry
goal
about it.
line.
They're gonna
You
give
know,
him the ball.
yeah, exactly. They're gonna have to give it to him. They don't have somebody that's, I mean, unless, who knows? Bo Nix could come out and be a red zone threat. He could be the coming of age Tom Brady, where when it's a short yardage situation, you can count on him to go and get it. But we don't know. That's neither here nor there.
I
But
love the high hopes.
you're right. Well,
I love
I hope so. I hope so. From everything that I'm hearing, you know what I mean? Like, he fits Sean Payton's system. He's what Sean Payton wants. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know, man. I think we're about to see a whole different look Broncos from last year, even down to the point of, I heard was maybe, Sean Payton underutilizing Jaleel McLaughlin last year just because he didn't want the team to somehow pop and Russell Wilson, gain, more trust around the
Hold
team.
his
So it was a
own
whole
team
lot of
back
stuff.
just to, wait for this season.
Yeah, and I mean, if so who knows what Bo Nix is going to do? That's what that's what Sean Payton wants, is a quarterback that's mobile to throw the ball, not mobile to run the ball, though. So either way, if James Cook were here, we definitely would be using him on those,
Yeah.
the
And that
short
kind of
yardage
stuff,
situations.
Draft capital too. I mean,
the situations they're in, if it's not ideal, they drop farther down. But if they get to put into a system that fits them and works for them, it brings like a wave underneath them, and there you see them getting drafted higher and more
Yep.
frequently in earlier rounds.
Definitely. Yeah. I know you brought up A-Chain, Jim. He was one of the guys when I did my research. He was one of the highest up guys on the do not draft list at his ADP. They just,
Why is
I
that?
mean, you can take a look at it, and the reason that he had the season that he had was, you're gonna bring up one big game that he had, and that was against Denver, and that obviously is good for his points on the season and everything. But like,
hmm
I mean, he's not gonna be that 60-point scorer, 50, 60-point scorer every week. And especially you still got Mostert in the mix, and I think he's still going as number one. So it's like, yeah, I think a lot of people who were really high on A-Chain last season are just thinking maybe a come down to earth situation, or them not banking on the same script. But yeah,
Yeah.
he was definitely one of the highest guys up there on the do not draft at his ADP. So
I think
I
I
mean,
had
it is.
him on.
my list when
I think you had him on your list too, and it's understandable. I mean, look at their team. There's only one football. There's only so much time in a game. You can't give everybody, the ball, and you can't get everybody going every time. And that's the same. You are right, Shawnee. Like, he had that one big game where he popped, and then it just kind of looked average for the rest of the season. And because he had Mostert, I mean, I just felt like they were competing against each other a lot of the time, and that helped the both of them, look really good. Plus, not to mention, you got Tyreek Hill, and Waddle on the outside,
yeah,
and you got I mean, Tua's a great quarterback. It's weird to say, because you never, you know, does he finish the season? I don't know, in my opinion. But Tua's a great quarterback. They have such a great team, such a good coach, that I feel like A-Chain just kind of benefits from that. But you send him somewhere else, and he's Tony Pollard. Like,
yeah,
you're writing him off right away. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, to add to that, to me, he's one of those players that only matter for your lineup on championship week, where he could blow up and give you that 40, 50-point game that just
yeah,
Otherwise, the rest of the season, I don't really want to take
a
that.
gamble. I
Yep.
mean, the
exactly.
only time I like players of that sort of like mold is going into championship week being like, oh man, I could either blow the doors off this thing and walk away with it breezy, or yeah, it could be a long off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I don't mean to cut you guys off, but we're
No,
coming
good.
up on that hour mark. I mean, I'm sure we could talk all night about this.
No,
Didn't
we're
get anybody
good.
chiming in now, but I mean, guys, you can still leave your comments in there. You
Certainly.
can still leave your questions, your teams. We check them. I try to go in there as much as I can and check all the comments and posts afterwards and stuff. And we'd love to talk about it. So Feel free to chime in. I see you guys out there watching. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely, thank
But
you.
yeah, we can continue this next week, Shawnee. I think that'd be good to carry on because we'll have a little bit more information too. Seeing what's
Yep.
happening
I
in
think
this
the Hall of
first
Fame
week.
game will be over with. We can talk about that too.
Who's playing in the Hall of Fame game? I don't even know. Is that it? It's new
Good
coaches.
question.
It's the new coaches. Who's the new coach?
Um.
Who you got?
Oh, come on. Where is it?
Houston versus Chicago.
Yep.
Okay. So actually, I think
wow.
that's.
We're
I
gonna
think
see.
that's.
I don't think we'll see Caleb or Stroud.
I don't think
Never
we'll
mind.
see Caleb. I don't think
No.
we'll see CJ Stroud out there. But that would be. That I think that was the whole reasoning behind it. That is gonna be. Do they even play? Do they play this season? Let's see.
I
I think the NFC North does play the AFC South, and I think the game is in Houston this year.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be
they
a
will.
good
They'll
game.
play.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. I mean, that's crazy how the NFL has managed to make because we've seen it in the past with the first round players. You got Baker Mayfield. He was a first round player, but didn't really pan out. You got I can't even really think of too many that are panned out like this, where it worked back to back, where you have potential to have a prime time game of a rookie and a second year quarterback. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be interesting. And then
Yeah,
by the
there's
time they play
definitely
too,
firepower,
oh
caliber coming
High
out of
scoring
those.
games. I want pieces in that game.
yeah, right. And there's pieces all over from both teams. I mean, I know you said DJ Moore, you stay away from, but I mean, Chicago has a receiving core. If they click, man, they're gonna be talked about like the Eagles. I think Houston's receivers can rival any trio in the league right now. I don't think there's many teams you can put up against them that you can say like this team has 3 better receivers than the Texans right now. Quite honestly. So that is gonna be interesting to see. But yeah, guys, I think next week we carry over. And keep it going. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens after the Hall of Fame game too. Thank you guys for watching us. You can always catch us on Shady Sports Network on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, X, all the social medias, Twitch. And did I say Facebook already? Anyway, on the Shady Sports Network, Shady Sports Fantasy Reports, we're bringing it to you, helping keep you guys on track. I mean, I think if you're a smart fantasy player, you're listening to our show because you're definitely getting some gems every week.
And you're getting a little bit smarter listening.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit smarter. Definitely not losing any brains. No. We're trying to give you our best advice, so hopefully we are giving you guys some nuggets. Tune into us every Tuesday, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, and catch us on Shady Sports Network. I'm your boy Cedric Green.
Sean, I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, Shawnee, we're glad to have you on too, man.
Absolutely,
you
I
haven't been
love
on
it.
the last ones. It's always fun with you on here.
Yeah. You guys count on me. As you can week to week, but once the season starts, I'm a guarantee I'm here. This is my favorite thing in the world to do. And even if you don't agree with what we're saying and you don't think we're giving you the right information, jump on here and tell us, man. We want to hear it all. We're here for every aspect of this because we love it. I say it every time. We only do this because we love fantasy football as much as you and want to help you guys get to that championship like we've all gotten. It's a good feeling. Join us every week if you can. If not, like you said, get at us on our socials. We'll answer any questions we can. And we're trying to build a fan base here. Don't forget to use that code for Cash App. Cash App is great to use to pay your fantasy football dues to your commissioner. And Manscaped is a good thing to use if you don't want your girl never to go down on you again.
Cool.
Not wrong.
Justin, you got anything?
No, I guess, yeah. Please, if you're watching this, well, now that we're done live, but replay, share, like, subscribe, spread the good word. We're here to help you. We're here to entertain you. We're here to bring you championships and at the same time make you feel included in this whole thing we call fantasy football.
There we go. It's all about the inclusion and engagement. So we love fantasy football. We love you guys. Peace. See you next week.
I'm a game changer. changer.